Hello, today we're going to talk about all the IPOs that I'm watching. But the top five. I'm watching a lot. I always keep an open mind for everything. I read a lot. I advocate reading. But anyway, I'm going to jump right into it. These five stocks I'm watching um, that are IPO this year, and I wait till the end of the video. I think that's probably the best. I always start from the least, maybe not least risky. I think all these are slightly have their risk, but I believe the biggest one, save for the end grand finale. But anyway, let's jump right into it. The first one is Zoom. What Zoom does, if you don't know it, basically it's like it's almost like Skype, but they do a lot more other. Well, maybe not level, but that's kind of what they do. So I think Zoom videos and stuff like that, video chatting. So essentially, I believe this stock, the market cap is 24, so you can kind of put that perspective where that could grow. I think Zoom is one of these platforms a lot of people use. I think this will be big going down the world, going down the line and in the future, because you have to think all these people are doing video conferences and stuff like that. So essentially, people don't have to travel as much. They can just do it right there and present and then talk about it. You can be basically right in the room showing things. And I was watching this thing. This guy was giving his talk and his presentation on Zoom. You know, I mean, that's a lot of, for a business, I think it'd be good. For the average person, it'd be good. So essentially, I mean, that's pretty cool stuff, really. I mean, think about that, you know. I mean, I always picture it like in that movie Back to the Future, where that in the part 2 where the guy says you're fired on the TV. It's kind of like that. So essentially, and I think that's pretty cool going forward. I think that's going to be big. I think it's pretty cool stuff with Zoom. So that's why it's definitely on the watch list. Let's just say if it was any pullback, you know, I probably maybe the next correction or whatever, maybe a pullback. I don't actually personally own it now, but I wouldn't call you crazy if you bought it. Moving on to number 2. Number 2 is actually the only one out of all these I actually own, just because it hasn't freakishly moved up. It actually pulled back a little bit. Well, the next one actually did too. But anyway, is Uber. I actually make sure you subscribe and like this, because I give why I bought this, and actually I bought it. It's actually up since I recommended it. But Uber is one of these. I could leave a link down the video explaining more on Uber, why I like it. But I mean, Uber, it's probably the brand, you know what I mean? It's the leader in a growing industry, and I really like that. I always go for the companies like that. I mean, when you think of calling a cab and stuff like that, because you have to think cars are getting more expensive. People are, you know, have to calculate all that. It's almost like renting versus buying. I believe, you know, you rent basically, an Uber is basically renting it versus buying. You know, it's just kind of like a lot of people are renting houses, just renting apartments and stuff like that, just because it's just the way society's changed. A lot of people don't buy a house because it's more expensive. It's this, you have to put down payment, you have to have a bank loan. And then the other thing is, if you get get, let's say, a layoff or a better job somewhere else, you have to sell your house or move and stuff. So essentially, Uber is kind of like that in vehicles. So essentially, instead of buying a car or buy this, you can call an Uber, you know what I mean, and ride back and forth. And it's kind of, you know, it depends how far you drive, because Uber pays by the mileage or whatever it is. I actually never used an Uber, but I can see why someone would, especially in the city. I mean, what's the point of driving, you know, in the city, especially if it's not that far? And I don't know how it works, if it's I think it's by mileage. So essentially you paying by mileage and stuff like that. And I like Uber and Uber Eats. I think that's cool. I think that's cool stuff. You know, you can call someone. Basically, every single restaurant can be delivery. I think that's pretty cool, if you ask me. So essentially, and I think Uber Freights. So essentially, I mean, that Uber has a big platform, and I think it's pretty cool stuff what they're doing, especially with the Uber Eats and all that. I mean, that's pretty cool. Basically, any ride, anywhere, anytime. Basically, essentially, if there's somebody to help you out, you know, I mean, how you can order a pizza, tell them to get it. I think that's cool stuff. I like Uber. So essentially, and once again, they have the biggest network, and that's just not in America. I mean, it's all over the place. The next is Slack. Slack is a company. It's kind of, maybe I can leave a link down in the descriptions of what Slack does. Slack is, I'm kind of watching it, but I'm waiting for a pullback. The market cap's around 17 billion, so it's a pretty big well, it's not big in Amazon size, but I believe it has potential, and it's kind of neat what they do. It's kind of weird. They have this platform, so basically, it be creating your own like way to network with your coworkers. So essentially, let's say you can drop files, you can drop messages. So it's kind of like almost like Facebook Messenger. It kind of looks like that, but it has all your coworkers on there and all neat and organized and everything like that. And you can have private groups for like managers. They can talk among each other. You know, then they have like departments. So let's say you're in accounting and you're in sales. You know, they can have their own thing, but they can kind of talk to each other, and it's pretty cool. I think it's per how many people they add on there and then how much they use it. So that's their pricing model. So I think that's pretty cool. Um, so essentially, I don't own this one, but it's definitely on the watch list. If it pulled back quite a bit, you know, I might pick it up. You know, more I learn about it and stuff like that. It's not. It's probably the one I least know on this list, but it's definitely on the watch list. I always kind of just kind of watch and feel like investing sometimes like hunting. You don't have to, you know. I mean, you can sit out in the tree and hunt for. Let's say you're hunting a deer or whatever, or fishing. You don't have to keep. You don't have to shoot at every single animal you see, but when you see a good one, you have to take the shot. So I'm saying anyway. Um. Next one is Beyond Meat. I like this company. I like what they're doing. You think it's definitely a growing industry. I think it will be around. If they can make it, if they can do what I call basically make it better and cheaper. If they can ever get the pricing down, Beyond Meat, their stuff is slightly more expensive. See, here's the thing. If somebody, if you know, in the way people look at it, if they had pricing power, so essentially, you have to think. I mean, what would you rather buy if you're a meat eater? So essentially, they're targeted to meat eaters. Essentially, would you buy the veggie burger that's more expensive or the regular meat that's cheaper? Probably the regular meat that's cheaper. But, you know, so essentially, if they can ever lower that price and kind of have more pricing power, I think Beyond Meat could even take off even more. So essentially, especially if they enhance it, they have so much stuff they can grow into as a company. They have so many growth opportunities. And the way to look at it, I always kind of look at it as like maybe the next Kraft Heinz or something like that has a big brand and they can brand it out. And that brand is the brand's worth a lot. You know, it's like Pepsi or Coca-Cola, you know, stuff like that. So essentially, if it could become the next Kraft Heinz where, you know, it has Kraft cheese, I mean, all that stuff. So essentially, it can do all that with the health food stuff, with the fake, especially if they make it taste just as good or even better in some cases. I mean, you think about all the restaurants it could sell to, all the customers at this grocery store they can sell to, all the burgers they can sell, all the maybe if they made it into chicken, they already have sausages that you can buy. They have so many opportunities with this company. It's definitely on the watch list, and at nine, I thought it was crazy. It spiked up a little bit, and I think that's a lot of short squeezing and stuff like that, where people kind of bet against it real hard, and then it was not as bad. Which I think it's, let's just say I wouldn't bet against any of these companies, but I think they're doing great things. Beyond Meat anyway has a $9 billion market cap. So essentially, if it grew up to Kraft Heinz sitting around 50 billion, so that's about 5 times from where it's at. So essentially, I believe it can get there maybe one day. I think the stocks ran up a little much, but I believe if it can deliver, it'll be a very good company. But anyway, the next one is probably maybe not my favorite, but let's just say the one that I might buy, and that is CrowdStrike. Basically, what it is cybersecurity. And I like these companies because it doesn't rely on a lot of consumer stuff. You know, I mean, consumers, they will go on. I mean, cybersecurity, going forward with all this stuff and 5G and stuff like that, all these technology, and the way it works is it protects the cloud and really kind of all your cell phones and all this stuff that get hacked into. I mean, think about it. Everybody does their banking, everybody does this and that. I mean, and then with 5G, you have all these devices eventually will be on the cloud and stored all this data and stuff, like your car if it gets autonomous. I mean, how they have autonomous everything really going forward. And so essentially, I think that's why a lot of these cybersecurity, it will be necessary, and companies will have to use it. I mean, think about all the data, all your bank account information is probably on your cell phone. You do online banking with that. You do it all, and it's just how it is. It's simple. It's easier, and you're gonna have to use um, way, you know what I mean? So essentially, that's really what it is. So essentially, that's why I like it. What they do is they kind of protect it. They use AI too. Essentially, they're building out that. They're just doing a lot of good things. So that's why I like CrowdStrike. It's a $13 billion company. It's actually about it's kind of like Zscaler, but they do it a little different. So essentially, I made a video actually explaining that. Um, a video of Zscaler. It was one of these stocks I recommended. I let's just say I don't really know which one will be probably better to buy. So essentially, I was thinking about buying maybe a little bit of each and basically just splitting up the risk. So essentially, because then I believe they both will probably do one, but I think one would always kind of win out. I don't know which one that is. Kind of like what I did with MasterCard and Visa. I don't know which one probably could beat each other or what would be a better thing, but they're both growing in a good trend. So essentially, I just split it up and said that's what it was, and they both performed well. One didn't really win out, and really none of them. They just kind of went neck and neck. It's almost like Lowe's and Home Depot. If you look at the chart, really Home Depot and Lowe's is really the chart looks a little bit. Home Depot's a little ahead, but anyway, that's kind of like how I look at CloudStrike. I think that's the one that I might buy in the coming weeks or months or so, especially if it has a pullback. It's shot up a lot. A lot of these IPOs, they have a lot of hype on them, and which it's necessary. I think it's a good thing they have hype because there's a lot of excitement around these companies. But I believe sometimes they hype them up a little too much, and sometimes I think they get a little crazy with it. But anyway, that's 5 stocks. Remember, sure to like and to subscribe so I can give you updates. I always talk about the stock, any stock I recommend, like Uber. I make videos, whatever they do. I will make a video of talking about it. Is it buy, especially if it drops more than 10%, it goes up more than 10%. I talk about it. But anyway, thank you for this, and thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe and everything like that. Thank you. Have a great day.